Hi, I'm Eric Ostro, host of Live at the Lortel. For Season 4, we continue our focus on art and activism. Why do off-Broadway artists uplift certain causes, and how do those causes make them the artists they are today? And while we gather virtually, we'd like to recognize that we occupy land stolen from Indigenous people. Join us in acknowledging this history and consider our role in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Ostro, one of the hosts of Live at the Lortel. I'm very excited for this evening's interview. I'm going to give a little visual description of myself. A white Caucasian male with brown hair that's starting to turn a little gray, brown eyes, and I'm wearing light glasses and a black sweater. My pronouns are his and him. I would love to bring on my co-host for the evening and my dear friend, Ann James.
Hi.
Hi, my love. How are you?
I could not be better. It is so great to be back here live at the Lortel. My name is Ann James. My pronouns are she, they. I am an African-American woman who is wearing a black sweater. So we're twinsies.
Yes, we
And I have a silver chain with a panther, like Black Panther. And
a turban.
And a turban with a jade amulet on it. I am
Love.
wearing headphones, green glasses, gold earrings, and my lips are red.
Wow. Excellent description.
Thanks.
I'm going to give a little. Do you want to read the intro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would. Are you kidding? It would be
No,
my
please
honor.
do. Yes, please.
Oh, are you? We are in store for a treat tonight. Camille A. Brown is a 3-time Tony Award nominee and is the first Black woman to direct and choreograph on Broadway in 67 years. In addition to her Tony Award nominations, Camille has received an Obie Award, 2 Aldelco Awards, 3 Drama Desk nominations, and 3 Lortel nominations. Here we are. Her film television credits include Ma Rainey's Black Bottom on Netflix and Jesus Christ Superstar Live on NBC. Ms. Brown co-directed the Met Opera's Fire Shut Up in My Bones, making her the first Black director of a Met main stage production. She's also passionate about social dance for social change and Everybody Move, 2 companies that she is founding for. So please, let's welcome Camille A. Brown.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi.
We are so honored to have you here.
Truly.
I know last season we tried to get you on, but we had some scheduling problems, but I'm so happy that you're here now. And first of all, how are you doing? I mean, it's been a crazy, 2.5, almost 3 years. How are you doing?
I wanted to introduce myself too. Because
yes, please.
Okay, so Camille A. Brown, Black woman, wearing my hair up. I tried to find the biggest gold earrings I could today, so I'm wearing those, and I'm wearing a gray T-shirt that says "Everybody Move."
Yes. Love it.
So let's get back to how are you doing? How did you deal with the pandemic and the closing of shows and the opening of shows and keeping your creative juices flowing? How are you doing today from all of that?
I'm doing okay. I think it's a process. We're still in it. So that's something to remind ourselves of. So it's just, and we're still now, I think, getting used to being back because we were isolated for so long. So it feels good to be in a room with other people. It's still scary because we're still doing testing. So, there's still anxiety around having shows, but it just feels good to create and actually show what you've been creating, like past Zoom or something. So it's been great.
Wonderful. Yeah, I wanted to, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ann, please.
I just wanted to jump in and ask you this question that I love asking people. It's kind of an interest of mine to kind of set the tone for a meeting like this. If you were a scented candle tonight, what would the scent be?
Okay, I have a combination.
Oh,
So
Love
eucalyptus,
combo plates. Go ahead.
Oh, say it
yeah,
again.
eucalyptus and lavender. I'm gonna
Right.
dance the combination.
Nice.
I think I love the aroma of it, so it's really nice.
I do
Oh,
too. I'm gonna pick that one for myself too.
oh,
Cool.
you are?
Yeah.
I think I
So I
might.
want to talk a little bit about. I know you rely on your individual dancers when choreographing and your artists to contribute to the narrative of the storytelling that you're saying. But you've said this. It's not. I'm the choreographer and I'm telling you what to do, she urges. It's not like that. It's just like an actor has a line and they're able to say it 50 different ways. I want my dancers to have one step and say it in 50 different ways. I love that. Will you
Great.
talk a little bit about that and your process?
Yeah, it's just I feel like I create the structure and it's up to my dancers or the actors that I'm working with to put their creative identity on top of that. So I feel like my movement or the worlds that I create don't lift off unless the person, the individual who you are, steps into that role. And through that, you can make 100 different choices. Because to me, I love the idea of choice making because sometimes I know what it's not before I know what it is, and I
Nice.
have to do kind of yes, no, okay, let's change this, but I need options. So I love the idea of choice making and saying things different ways because it tells us which way to go.
So it's not really like jumping in and being like, no, I want you to do it this way.
I think after a while, once I get a sense of what the story is and we land on something, then I can be more clear about, okay, let's
Mhm.
do it this way. But when we're in the beginning of a creative process, I just like exploring. Like, let's
Mhm.
try this way, let's try that way. Like I said, it's what I don't know it before I know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. I know you grew up in Queens. I read a lot about you. You were a little girl with a very little voice.
Yes.
I've read that a lot about you, and that it took some time for you to find your voice. And I would love for you to talk about that because I think when we talk about women's or even men's voices being so small and not being able to say what they want or say what they want to do, or whether it's the volume of it or how you say it, but the voice as an artist. And then
Yeah.
you found dance and you were able to. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that little girl and where she is now.
Yeah. So yes, I have a small voice. I still have a small voice, and I was really shy. I still am very shy, but I used to get teased a lot for my voice. And I know that I don't know if they do this now, but in school, you have class participation, and I rarely participated in class because I was just fearful of how I would sound. Even if I knew the answer, I still wouldn't raise my hand because for someone else it might be as easy as, oh, it's just the answer, but to me it was like moving a mountain. And every time I danced and moved through my body, it was a way for me to feel safe. It was almost like my creative playground, and I could step into it and be what I wanted, show my emotions. It's so funny because when you were asking me that question, I'm reminded of a time my company and I had a show at City Center, I think in 2017, and we were at a restaurant during the break, and someone came up to us and started talking, and they asked me what I did, and I said, oh, I have my own company, and they said, like, you have such a small voice. I don't see you leading anything. I was like, okay. But it's just so, and that was in 2017. So, it's
Wow.
still something that I think I still have to continue to push through.
I'm
That
wondering
mhm.
who were your biggest influences? Like you talked a minute ago about your process and wanting to know what you don't know so that you know what you know.
Right.
Were you taught that by someone? Did you learn how to create through watching someone, or who were the people that you looked up to when you were developing your craft?
Yeah. So Diane McIntyre's process, she's a Black female director, choreographer, has her own company. Her process to me was magical. It was something that I had never experienced. She was always willing to just open the floor up for conversation. She asked us how things felt. She was in constant, she worked with the musicians a lot. So she was in constant dialogue with musicians. If something didn't work, she wouldn't sit in the moment, she would change it. And it just changed, it just flipped how I was used to working in spaces. And it told me to just not necessarily relax, but relax in like the moment and let it be a living organism. Like you may have something prepared before, but if you come in the room and it changes, go with it, because it's supposed to do that. Creative spaces are supposed to do that. So I was really inspired by her. And then Roger C. Jeffrey, who is he's like a brother to me. He really taught me about performance and but also having a business mind too, and just how it's important to have both when you're in this business. So he's wonderful. So those are the two that I'm going to shout out tonight.
Yes.
So the little girl with the small voice. So tell me, let's kind of take a little journey. So you really started in tap, is that correct?
I started in tap, ballet, and African.
Okay. So how old were you when you started taking classes?
4.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you asked your parents if you could go into it, or was it something?
My mom and dad put me in a lot of things. My mom loves dance. My dad loves dance. My mother is a retired social worker. My father is a retired parole officer, but he used to teach salsa dancing on the side. And my mom got me into musical theater. So they both love dance. And what was I going to say? See, this is live and I'm trying to make up.
Time. There's no pressure.
No.
So they put me in a lot of like, I played the clarinet, I did swimming, and I danced. And my mom loved dance, but she didn't like force it on me. It was just something that I loved doing. So when I was in school, we had the 3 to 6 in dance school in Queens. It was called the 3 to 6 year olds. It was at Bernice Johnson's Cultural Arts Center. And you could take up to 3 classes. And the first time I went, my mom only put me in 1 class because she didn't want to overwhelm me. But she saw how disappointed I was when everybody else went on to their other classes, that the next season or the next like round, then she put me into all 3 classes. So
you got a good mom. She's very observant.
Yeah.
Watching her child just take to something. And I just want to, appreciate your parents for a moment for their artistic leanings, and thank God for them, because we as a community get to have you in our lives. So thank you, Mom and Dad, to Camille for encouraging you.
Mr.
Thank
and Mrs.
you.
Brown.
Yeah.
So you said musical theater. Your parents, would they take you to the theater very often as a young girl? Would you go to some dance companies, theater? Would they go into the city, or would you go see live theater? Yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember do you remember a moment of seeing something when you were like, oh, this is what I want to do?
I remember seeing Serafina, Black, Jelly's Last Jam.
Yes.
Damn Yankees. My mom took me to see Hansel and Gretel when I was 4, but I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
That was young then. But there were Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk. Like,
yes,
I remember certain like feelings when I was there. Like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do.
That changed my life too. That show, I remember that so well. It was Savion Glover, and it was an incredible show.
Yes, absolutely.
Really made his career. So as a choreographer, when you're putting a show together, what do you get up and see? I'm not a dancer. I very much appreciate it and love the art form, but I want to get into your head a little bit about your process. So when you're putting something together, do you get up and dance through every track yourself, or do you see it in your head first, or are you putting up storyboards, or is it different for every show?
Yeah, for concert dance, I can say that how I develop movement is I start with how I want people to feel. So there's one piece that I did called Mr. Tolerance, and it's about blacks
Right.
and entertainment over time, but also minstrelsy and black stereotypes. So I said to the dancers that I wanted there to be a moment where everyone feels like they're being entertained and they're laughing, and then I wanted there to be a moment where they feel completely uncomfortable and question why they laughed. So we start with that. What does that mean? And then we started talking about, well, minstrelsy. What were the kind of social dances that happened during minstrelsy? So then we start doing that. And then I normally set the work on myself as solos first, so I can get
Mhm.
an idea of what the movement language is. And then once I understand what it is in my body, then I can transfer it to other people.
I see. So you are getting up and kind of putting it in your own body before you teach it.
Yes, but I'm doing all that thought before.
Right. I get it.
Yes.
And to piggyback on that, do you tell us about your relationship to your dance captains or the people that assist you? Do you have a community that you call on? Is it the same team all the time, or do you call on new, fresh people that you see something in?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to Ricky Tripp, who uh, has been my associate for over 10 years now. We have grown together in so many ways, and he has my back. So we have done the majority of the projects that I've done have been with him. I also want to give a shout out to Maite Natalio, who has been an associate of mine on several shows. Malik Washington, Catherine Foster, Adesolo Sakalumi, Marco Santana, who I worked on Fortress of Solitude with. So I just want to shout out all of the people that have really helped me through this career.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I do have my and of course it's important while I'm asking them for their time that I'm also supportive of their time too, because they're all choreographing themselves. So I do have a pool of people that I pull from, but everyone's not always available, especially
Right.
now when
Of
there's so
course.
much going on.
Right.
So that pool is slowly starting to open.
What's your research like before you go into a project? I mean, I know what I do before we even do an interview about the amount of time I watch interviews you've done. I read everything I can about you. I mean, I know what I do in terms of prepping. And when I was an actor a long time ago, the amount of research that I did, you know, working on a part. But I'm fascinated by what your research into, because you have done so many different kinds of different periods of everything and everywhere,
Yeah,
disco to the minstrel you were talking about. I mean, so many different things.
yeah. That I think that goes back to my mom sharing musical theater and social dance with me, because I just know the time periods. I know if you say 70s, I know what that looks like. If you say 40s, I know what that looks like. If you say 1910, I know what that looks like.
Wow.
Um, but that's just really because of her. And then as I got older, I was also continuing to dig deeper into what the world of African American social dance is. And then just like, for instance, when I was working on Once on This Island, I felt like it was a real opportunity to pull out West African, Afro-Cuban, and Afro-Haitian. And I didn't have a lot of Afro-Haitian uh, information from me. So I hired Maxine Montalis as my Afro-Haitian consultant. And so she would teach me some things and give me information. And I told her that it's like, okay, now we're doing this, but it's not a cut and paste. Like, I'm not doing this to just put it over here. Like, it's just for me to be informed. So then when I'm in the room and ideas are coming, then I have a source to pull from. So it's not only the West African and the Afro-Cuban, it's now also the Afro-Haitian information that can be put into the show.
Mm.
So now that we're talking about Once on This Island, which was an incredible revival, and what just a phenomenal show, and your work
10 out of 10.
It was just one that you just want to get up on your feet and scream and yell and laugh and cry, and it just was a magnificent revival. What that was probably a different theater for you to work in, because it's circle, it's
Yeah.
all
Circle
the different sides, circle and square. So what's that like, going from proscenium to the round to circle and the square to all these different kinds of, you have to keep changing.
So when we started Once on This Island, I was also starting a new work for my company. So there's a duet called Turf, and it's two Black males that are dancing about brotherhood, and it's a more like a Boys to Men rite of passage kind of thing. And they're constantly circling around themselves, and it's because I was practicing how to work in the rounds, because I had this island coming up. So they were kind of working aside each other while,
Wonderful.
Because I knew that was my first time doing it. And so I used the opportunity while I was already in the creative space to just think about, well, what if this revolves? How can you keep the mind or interested with them constantly turning around? And you probably won't see it. I mean, that duet that I'm talking about for my company is done in a proscenium. So you probably won't go, gee, I wish this was or maybe you would, I don't know. But, that's done in the proscenium.
Yeah. What was your experience like working on Once on This Island?
Oh man, it was scary. I mean, everything is always scary for me. So, but it was so fun with the people in the room, and Ricky Tripp was my associate, and Catherine Foster was my assistant choreographer. So we had a good time. We had a good time in the room exploring. That was my first Broadway musical. So I was really excited about that. So yeah, it was good.
So Camille, what do you do when you say you're scared? You know? And it brings me back to that little girl with the small voice. To me, you don't have a small voice. To me, I mean, to me, to be in a room with you, I would listen, everybody would go silent. Of course, I'm sure you know how to lead a room, but what do you do to overcome the fear and overcome being scared? Because that's the first word you used. You said, I was scared.
I'm scared. I lean into the fear. That's what I do. And I ask myself, if you don't do this, if you don't make this decision, are you going to regret it in 5 years?
Right.
That's a good question.
It always makes me, even though things are super scary that are before me, I always ask myself, well, are you going to regret not doing it?
Good.
Yeah.
I want to know, what can you share about your leadership? We've been talking about your leadership in professional situations for the stage and in performance, but I'm wondering more about your advocacy work and your work as an educator. Can you tell us how you lead those types of rooms, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing on that end?
Yeah.
Social dance for social change, and everybody move.
Yes. Well, in terms of leading a room, I had my teachers who taught to my body, and I felt that I was seen. And then I had teachers that did the complete opposite, and I felt invisible. So as a leader in the room, I always want to make sure that everybody feels seen. And I don't know if I would have been so in tuned had I not had the experience of rejection. So that is one of the things that I use in terms of being a leader, is like making everyone feel seen, because you don't know who you're talking to in the room. You could be talking to the next like producer or the next like director or the next stage manager. Like you don't know what you're instilling in them and how they're going to respond to it. So that's one of the ways that I use leadership. But just in terms of Everybody Move came from another initiative I did called Black Girl Spectrum. And Black Girl Spectrum came from a piece that I did called Black Girl Linguistic Play, about Black girls and the maturation from girlhood to womanhood. And, you know, as a creative art maker, you create work and you don't know if it's going to succeed or not. Some people may like it, maybe people don't. I don't know. So I didn't know how Black Girl Linguistic Play was going to be received. So I said, well, let me make like an initiative that's talking about Black girlhood, that is talking about these African American social dances that I'm pulling from, and double Dutch and everything, and make it like a guide, and something that Black girls can use and can really be inspired to move through their bodies. And so we tried Black Girl Spectrum, and thankfully Black Girl Linguistic Play was received well. So Black Girl Linguistic Play and Black Girl Spectrum were able to live together. And then the next stage of that was Black Men Moving, which had the same premise of instilling like liberation through movement. And then I said, well, why don't we do everybody? And now we got Everybody Move. So that's pretty much how that came about. And then Social Dance for Social Change. I've always said Social Dance for Social Change, and I'm not saying that as if I'm the first one to say that, but I'm saying that kind of came about. It kind of rose during COVID, but it was something that I had been saying from before COVID. But when the shutdown happened, it gave us an opportunity to reach people in another way, because people were isolated, and we wanted to still give people a sense of freedom, even though people were isolated. So Social Dance for Social Change was also a way to educate people too, to let people know that this is intellectual study that we're doing. We're not just talking about flapping our hands. This is a technique. So inviting scholars that I knew to really talk about their work, to talk about Lindy Hop, to talk about hip hop, to talk about all of the things that people use on the stage. What are we really looking at? And we need to know. And if you don't know, here are people that can show you.
Was this all done online, and people could kind of log on and watch? Did you hold these on Zoom, or were you doing them in person?
We held them on Zoom for the shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have a Michelle Rivera is the director of Everybody Move. So she is in charge of the whole thing. I feel like Everybody Move has taken on another life now. So she's the director of that. And I think we've had about 500 workshops this year.
Wow.
I'm like, not this year, because it's 2023. That's a lot of workshops. That's Wednesday. Sorry.
Last year.
Since 22 to now.
2023.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Copy that.
That's a lot, but that's still a lot. And
it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was based for any age, or was it for young people?
Any age.
Wow.
Any age. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering about ability too, like accessibility. Have you had the opportunity to work with people with neurodiversity or disabilities within Everybody Move?
Absolutely. Yes, we do. I mean, it is truly for everybody. And it's trying to find what is your entry point. So if we are only working our arms, let's just really work on the arms. What world can we create with just the arms? Or what world can we create with just the legs? It's like creativity has no bounds.
I
Let's
love
go
that.
back a little bit. It wasn't that long ago, but I would love to talk about your production of For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough.
Yes.
I know a group of my friends did that show in college, and it was a great production. Yours was absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, it closed way too soon. And, I'm sorry about that. It must have been a disappointment of some kind. But I would love for you to talk about your process for it and those incredible artists that were in that.
Thank you.
And that was your first time directing and choreographing something, right?
Yes. Yes. But my friends and my family had to remind me that I've had my own company for over 15 years. And they said, Camille, you have been doing this. It's just it's in a different venue. Yes, the stakes may feel different, and yes, it may be a different way of like navigating it, but in terms of like telling a story, they were like, you know this, because I was so, as I said, scared and nervous about really wanting to do it. But it was supposed to come in spring 2020, and I didn't feel like I was ready. I didn't have like my vision in place. And the shutdown happened, and it gave me an opportunity to have a process. There were a lot of horrible, disastrous things that happened because of COVID. So I do want to acknowledge that. Uh,
Mm.
for me as a creative, it gave me the space to really figure out what I wanted to do with the story. How does Camille want to tell this story? This show is over 40 years old. Now, what are you going to say about it? This poem has been done 1,000 times. What are you going to say? How are you going to say it? I wanted the poetry to like live inside of me, and I'm glad that I had the year and a half to do that. I had a couple of bubble residencies with my company where I was just working and shaping and trying to figure things out. So by the time we had official rehearsals with the actual cast, I knew where I wanted to start, how I wanted to start, and how I wanted it to end. And there were definitely pieces that I said, okay, we're going to discover that in the room. But the overall shape was really something that I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to actually do through the shutdown.
Well, talk
I,
about it. I'd love for you to get a little bit more specific about your production. I mean, we could talk about this for 2 hours. I mean, it is such incredible piece of art, and your point of view on it was so nuanced and beautiful
Thank
and
you.
I'm going to
heavy.
be the Black woman interviewer for a
Okay,
moment.
I can't be that. So go ahead.
I just have to tell you that I saw your show with my 14-year-old niece at the time. And I was so excited to bring this work to her at that age. And I just saw her not really understand what was going on, but that she was in this theater. It was her first Broadway show ever,
Wow.
was your work.
Wow.
And I saw her turn from this kind of uncomfortably shy, disoriented young girl into a young woman during your show. She was leaning up in her seat. People were hooting and hollering and responding. I mean, she looked at me after the show and said, and I feel different.
Mm,
And I said, because you've seen art.
mm,
You have seen a piece of art.
thank
I
you.
could go on, but I just, as a Black woman
Yeah.
with a Black niece,
Yeah.
telling you that what you did, and I know it was hard, and we're going to talk about how hard it was. But I just want you to know the impact that you had in our lives that afternoon.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for that as a Black woman to a Black woman.
Thank you, Black woman. Thank you.
And I mean, a gay white man,
Yeah, you all right. You all right.
yeah, I'm okay. But I felt the same way. I mean, if theater can change you within those 2 hours, if something changes and you are talking about it and you are thinking about it when you leave that theater, you've done it. You've succeeded. So I would love to know what were the obstacles in it, that you had to come over, or were there any?
Yeah, the first obstacle was getting out of my own way. Because I found that I was getting really inside of my head about, this is a revival. I feel like there's somebody who's either done it, choreographed it, directed it, been in it. Like, it's like 1 degree of separation between people that So I had to just say, Camille, just do you. Whatever it is, do you. Don't worry about whether people are going to like it, whether it matches someone's thesis that they wrote about it. Like,
Oh my God.
on what the show means to you. So that's really that was the major obstacle that I had to get over. And thankfully I did get over and through that. And that once I got over that and just said, tell the story, then the challenges were about how you want to tell the story. Like, in the beginning, I didn't want any pre-show music because I wanted the first sound you hear is to be Ndajake's voice. And I asked Don Sutton, who is the estate holder, was there any text or anything, any sound bite that Ndajake had that we can possibly use to open the show? And he sent me this opening from a PBS special where she's literally introducing the show for Color Girls, and she's talking to her daughter, who was a child at the time. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is how I want us to start the show, with her, honoring her. And I also wanted us to start on a high. The first poem is Dark Phrases, which is very serious, but I wanted the power to start with us. And we are powerful, we are strong. We're going to take this journey. It's going to be hard at times, but we own the day. And so I wanted us to start there. And then I just started thinking specifically about the poems, and like Graduation Night. For some reason, WV's I'm So Into You was always in my head for that. And I was like, this would be really dope if it was done to that, because that was one of my favorite songs growing up. So, I tried to like play it, when we weren't in rehearsal, trying to play it to them. I was like, oh yeah, I think this would really work really well. So that was one. And then another one was Toussaint, and just trying to, it wasn't necessarily what was going on with the text, it was what was happening around the text that I found very challenging, because I thought, okay, I know it may have been done for them to play like they are little girls aligning with her, but what if what if they're these imaginary toys that actually move and shift and position themselves and abstractly make the picture? So it's not an obvious space, but it's kind of like they're creating worlds based on their movements.
I love that. I love that you said, I know we're all very proud of your work, and I know that you are very proud of it as well. But you say people were able to see the other side of you in this piece. Is that right? And can you explain what the other side of you means?
I think that it was my voice. I think people who hadn't seen my work, like in the director's mind, you saw who I am if I'm helming a show. This is Camille's take on it. So I think that's what I was saying in terms of like, if you didn't know, what did I say? What was the quote?
I'll tell you. Hold on.
Okay.
And then I want to talk about the pregnant woman in the show.
Oh, Kanita.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
said that you said you work and you did on the show because you say people were able to see the other side of you. And I just wanted to know what that other side was, and you explained that very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us about Kanita and how that was working in such a boisterous space, but with such a special little cast member on
No,
board.
she was wonderful. I mean, I think to see the cast holding space for her and holding space for each other was something that I feel very blessed to have witnessed throughout that process, and to see Kanita grow, because we were in that rehearsal time, maybe including previews, it's about 2 months. So to see her grow, to see all of them like grow in the world, but her physically grow,
Mm-hmm.
and for her to perform that poem specifically about losing your children, um, in the midst of her preparing to give birth to her own child, I thought that was really important to see. And just when they all come around her, and they do touch her belly too, I think it's also speaks to the care that we have for each other and that sisterhood too. So it was beautiful, to be a part of that. And I remember asking Kanita to do the show, and it must have been 2020 or early 2021 when we were on Zoom, and I told her like I think she would be amazing as the Lady in Red. So to then see her as the Lady in Red, like you said, with a little member, a little cast member, was beautiful.
Um, Here's another thing I would love to know about Johnson Faust, who was an important influence on you, taught using drums. And I read that you said the drums would play a rhythm and then we would have to mimic the rhythm, Brown said.
Oh, Sean Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
yeah.
So and you say, so I feel like a lot of my influence is based on how I was trained and tapped, feeling the rhythm and just playing with all of that. We were young. I was like 11. I didn't realize what she was giving us till now. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that level of information, the idea of like hearing a rhythm, you hear a rhythm when you're going in the train. I know a lot of dancers kind of, or musicians may hear that, but the way that we were riffing, the way that she so early connected us to the drum, I think that's what I was saying, that I didn't necessarily know what she was giving us at the time. She was giving us like legacy and ancestry and like history. She was giving it all in that one setup of allowing us to riff and communicate to the drum.
Yes.
I love that.
You just mentioned ancestry. I have a wonder. I'm wondering, there's a love for ancestry and the ancestries in this new, I call it a new Black arts movement. I feel that there is something coming down the road for us as Black performers, and this creative opportunity to bring our ancestors into the present with us in our work. Can you tell us a little bit about your ancestry practice, or if you have one?
Mm-hmm. It's prayer. I feel like it's listening. I think mainly it's that. Um, really giving yourself to it, knowing that your ancestors have you, um, honoring your ancestors in a way of like, wow, they prepared this space so we can go through. And I can't imagine the hardship, because we today still go through our obstacles. As a Black woman, I'm still dealing with the tropes and the stereotypes and all that stuff. And to imagine what Catherine Dunham must have felt like, as you said, 67 years ago, um, that's powerful. And so I try to listen a lot. and just have a lot of gratitude, and to think about, when you think about ancestry, I feel like you also have to think about how you're paying it forward too. So it's always like circular. It's always coming around to, and now what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yes, we are ancestors of the future.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I love that.
I'm not going to let you go without not talking about Jesus Christ Superstar,
Yeah.
which you did for NBC, which was your first real big job for TV. I mean, that was a
Pressure.
huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that experience a little bit and what it was like working for TV and what it was like to work with all of those incredible artists.
Yeah.
Not only just the leads of it who were incredible, but all your incredible dancers up there.
Yeah. It was one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever had in theater. It was, okay, we're going to use this word again, scary, because I've said it a million times.
It's
Um,
okay.
it was scary because it was, like you said, my first TV gig. So there were a lot of things that I had to learn in real time, but I also had to trust my instincts and what I did know. So there was a combination. And I feel like in everything I do, there's always that combination of learning in real time and then trusting my instincts. And then just the way David Laveau, who is the director, was leading the team. Yes, there were millions of people that were going to be tuning in, but the focus was, let's create art. Let's create a show that touches people, that just happens to be shot through someone's TV screen. And that's what I came away from, how he empowered his collaborators, how he empowered us. Well, I was his collaborators, also how he empowered the team, how he empowered the company. It was magnificent to watch.
It
How much
was.
how much did you learn? I mean, you must have had like you were shot out of a cannon
Oh
to
yeah,
learn all of the different TV angles. This is
yeah,
going to be here. This is going to be here. Camera one, camera two, camera
yeah,
three. I mean, you must have had a day or two of education for that, and then to be
yeah.
able
That
to
was a
put
week.
your dancers up. Yeah,
Yeah, we were in tech for about a week,
yeah, but
and there was one scene that there was the crucifixion scene, and John Legend was supposed to take the cross from one side of the stage to the next, and then we got on set and realized that it was a lot to pick up with the camera, so we had to take it out. Now in the studio, I had choreographed everything to work around that one moment. So in 3 hours, I had to change basically the entire shape of it in order for it to look like a complete thought. So that was, my brain was going so fast, just like, how can we do this the most efficient way without, it's a lot of information that I'm getting. It's a lot of information that we're giving the cast. How can we all work the most productive and efficiently?
how much rehearsal time did you have for you and your dancers? And how much prep time did you have before you went into the studio?
Yeah, I started with the cast. So we had the ensemble for, I think, about 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And the dancers were added maybe 2 weeks before we went into tech rehearsal. And then there was about a week before where David and our collaborators had some pre-pro time to set things up.
So what was that like turning that TV on to, we grew up with Channel 4, right? On
Yeah.
NBC,
Yeah.
putting that on in New York, Channel 4. What was that like you were there, but
Yeah, I was there, so I didn't, I mean,
but I mean, your family at home and all your relatives in Queens turning on Channel 4 and seeing, their little girls work.
yeah, I mean, it was exciting because I knew the shots by that point because we had rehearsed what it was. So I was just excited for them to see like what I was seeing. And I don't know if some people believed that I was doing it. There were
What do you mean?
No,
What do you-
I think because it was such a big thing.
Yeah.
I think because it came out of nowhere that I was doing it, that it was like, are you sure you did that? It's like, yeah, that was me. Yeah, that was me. So but it was
how did it
concert.
how did the job come to you?
David Laveau called me and asked me, did I want to do it?
Wow.
And brilliantly, you said yes.
I was ready to like just say, try to I thought it was going to be like an interview. I didn't know who else was, I was ready to just like, and he was really inviting me on the team, and I was just like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. So wow, again, just like Fortress of Solitude was my first musical theater experience, Jesus Christ Superstar was my first TV experience, and both David Laveau and Daniel Auken, the director of Fortress of Solitude, they could have gotten other people to do it. They could have gotten people that had way more experience than I did. So, and now that I know far more than I know now about the business, it's like, oh yeah, they really could have got somebody else. Now this business goes. So, I'm very grateful to them that there was a lot of trust there, and they believed. Sometimes it just takes people to believe in you.
That is so true. I mean, Eric, can we talk about the Metropolitan Opera now? Can we ask the questions?
Please, opera, yeah.
Okay. That was amazing. And you were in the right place at the right time, and it was your time. So I'm going to share that with you. I really believe that. And there was another instance where I'm not bitter, but I couldn't get into Porgy and Bess or Fire Shut Up in My Bones because they were sold out solid. I could not get in. I wanted to see both of them so badly. Can you tell us the difference between working on something that was crafted today, basically, and something that was crafted a while back in our American musical opera history? What were the differences that you felt in approaching those two works?
Yeah, I mean, well, one was a white team, which was Porgy and Bess, that was written, and the other was Casey Lemons, who is the librettist, and Terrence Blanchard, who is our composer, and is the black team. So, what does that mean for us to tell our stories through our lens? What does that look like? We had a full-on HBCU scene up in that opera, in the Metropolitan Opera. Like that was written in by Terrence and Casey. And I just was thankful enough that they gave me the opportunity to create my version of what that HBCU step scene looks like. But though that's one main difference, like the lens. It could be said that that's simple, but it's really not. It's actually the shift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Camille, we're coming to the end of the hour. It's gone so quickly.
No.
Tell me how the evolution of dance in your mind, how we can bring about social change.
Oh, how we can bring about social change. Well, I think we have to give each other grace enough to move through the space the way we need to, because people need to be themselves. We need to be free. People need to believe. That's what leads to change, if you believe. So I'm just going to leave with that. I think there are a lot of things that I could say, but I think there's nothing like when you believe in yourself. There's nothing like when you believe in and not intention, but if you believe in like a path or a journey or a space, or like, there's nothing like belief. And if we just hold on to belief, and if we hold on to our joy, then I feel like that will lead to change.
And do you feel like we are Jocelyn Bio, who's an incredible playwright, said, she said this so beautifully. She said it was like an enormous ship that is slowly turning, very slowly turning.
Mhm.
Do you feel like we are making a shift towards some sort of change?
I feel that. I definitely feel that and totally see that whole thing. But we have to keep challenging. It's like keep moving it. Because sometimes we go, oh, we changed. Oh, we moved a little. All right, well, I can take a break.
Right.
You know, we
No,
can't.
no
Yeah.
breaks.
It's like keep your focus on the goal and keep it turning. And it might not get all the way in our lifetime, but that's part of what this is. When we talk about ancestry, when we talk about paying it forward, that's what we're talking about too, continuing to push that boat and push that ship.
Yeah.
I love
Is
that.
there
Go ahead,
is
Ann.
there anyone that you are absolutely obsessed with right now in the dance world? Who do you look to when you're like, "Ooh, I wonder what so and so is doing"? Is there someone like that in your life right now?
Oh, I mean, I have many people, but I'm just gonna say Ricky Tripp because he is someone that I love so much, and we have been in this together. We have shared every emotion possible, and I don't have to ask what he's doing because I get to live in it and I get to see it. So that's who I would say.
What is your vision for theater, dance, the arts for the next few years? When we are slowly coming out of it. I know we're still kind of in it, but what is your vision for what you'd like to see in the next few years?
Oh, what I'd like to see in the next few years. Just continued opportunities. Black women, Black female choreographers, Black directors, stories of color continue, and all kinds of stories. But I hope that is like macro.
Mhm.
But micro is, I hope we all keep leaning into the danger of like, what does it mean for us to be ourselves? That's what I hope that all of us do, because that's really when we're going to see all of the stuff that we envision. If we lean into the fear and lean into what it means to actually shift ourselves first and then see the world shift because we did it first.
Mm, that was a beautiful, beautiful way of saying it.
Thank you.
And do you have a last question for Camille?
I have just one, and it's, kind of a selfish question, but what are you working on now, or what do you have upcoming that we can look forward to? Or and if that is rest, then
Yeah.
let it be rest.
Yeah. Rest is on the docket. So we put that on there. But Champion, which is Terence Blanchard's first opera, is going to be at the Metropolitan Opera. So I'm working on that. I'm doing a new piece for my company, and then working on Soul Train the musical, which is directed by Camila Forbes and booked by Dominique Marceau. And then I'm
Mhm.
working on a project for the public that's going to come around next year. So I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about that when I can talk about it.
Okay, we can't talk about it right
All
now.
right, not yet. Okay. Well, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for opening your heart um, and your mind to us. I think we got to know you a little bit better, and I can't wait to see what you do next. You are you're a true talent and a
Thank you.
beautiful artist. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart. I feel that we will see each other again.
I hope so.
And I just appreciate sharing this time with you. And thank you to Live at the Lortel and Eric so much for having me
It's always
with
a
this
pleasure.
exciting, dynamic titan of a woman.
Thank you.
with who I think has a big voice. I don't know what it is. It's
Thank
big
you.
to me. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. For our next episode, which will be recorded on February 27th, Joy D. Michelle and I will speak with actor, writer, director Fedna Jacquet. Fedna most recently starred as Passenger One in Lee Daniels' production of Ain't No Mo. As a writer and director, her film Chante Maman Muen, My Mother's Song, most recently was honored at the Urban Film Festival. She is a 2020 to 2022 National Black Theater Playwright in Residence and 2019 through 2021 Huntington Theater Playwriting Fellow and a 2019 NYSCA NYFA Artist Fellow in Playwriting Screenwriting. We will talk to her about all of that, as well as her cause, the Stepping Stone Foundation. Then on March 20th, my friend John Andrew Morrison and I will interview Tony-nominated and Grammy Award-winning actress Danielle Brooks. Danielle most recently starred on Broadway's In the Piano Lesson and also starred on Broadway as Sophia in The Color Purple. Danielle is the co-founder of Black Women on Broadway, which honors the legacy of Black women's contributions to the theater. More information about these and future guests, as well as how to attend recordings online, can be found on our website, liveatTheLortel.com. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Camille A. Brown. Thank you, Ann James. Please stay healthy and please support your local theater. Go to the theater. It's open. These artists are bringing so much to the stage, and we need you to support them. Stay safe. Have a good night. Good night from Live at the Lortel.